In lesson 5-4, or 5B, we're actually going to be reviewing the first three lessons of this chapter. So we'll be taking some time to go back over all the things we've done already in the last 3 days. So again, the key word here in our directions is that we're going to be estimating. So if we remember, whenever we're estimating mixed numbers, we'd always go to the nearest whole. So 9 and 14/15 is close to 10, and 2 and 3/4 is close to 3. And so that is about 7. You know, for your quiz, I'd expect you could do the work just like this because it's going to be on a piece of paper and you can work it out right there. For any kind of homework, you would want to rewrite the original problem and go from there. So again, 4 and 1/14, that's really close to 4, plus 5 and 7/8, that's close to 6. And that's about 10. Again, the key word here is estimate, so we don't have to worry about finding an exact answer. We're just trying to estimate a close answer, so that way when we get to the point where we're going to actually solve these problems, we know if we're close in our final answer. So now we're actually going to add or subtract, and it says simplify. So no longer do I see the words estimate. So 2/5 plus 3/5. So I can rewrite the numerator 2 plus 3 all over 5. And then I'm going to have 5 over 5. And actually, I can make a whole, so I can subtract that 5, which gives me 1 whole and nothing left over. So 1 is my answer. When I subtract 5, I'm doing that because I need 5 to make a whole. So for every 5 I can take away, I can make 1 more whole. Well, 5 minus 5 is 0, so I don't have anything left over. And 0 over 5 just equals 0. So I don't have to write 1 and 0 over 5. I can just write 1. So that's where I get that answer. Again, add or subtract and then simplify. I do not have a common denominator. So the next step is, can I make the smaller denominator equal to the larger one? And 6 times 3 gives us 18. So I can go ahead and do that. So I'll rewrite the problem 1/18 plus 15/18. And now I can rewrite the numerator 1 plus 15 over 18, which gives me 16 over 18. And now you always need to make sure you simplify. In this problem, I'm going to go ahead and simplify this by setting it up in the L method. So 16, I know that 2 can come out of both of those, and I'm going to get 8 and a 9. And I can't simplify 8 and 9 anymore, so that means that my answer is going to be 8/9. If you knew that the greatest common factor was 2, you could just go ahead and divide by 2, divide by 2. Either way, you either need to show me this work right here or this work right here. You have to show me what you're doing, otherwise it will not be counted for credit. Again, add or subtract and then simplify. So here I do have a common denominator and I'm adding, so I can go ahead and add my whole numbers to get 8. And then I can rewrite my numerator 1 plus 3 all over 8. And that's going to give me 8 and 4/8, which I can divide both of those by 2. And that would give me 8 and 2/4, and I can divide it by 2 again. And that would be 8 and 1/2. Now, if you knew that you could actually divide these both by 4, you could have saved yourself this extra step. You could have went 8 and 4/8 and divided by 4 to get 8 and 1/2 right away. So you could have skipped this step. You could also put 4 and 8 in the L method and gone with a 4 to get 1 and 2, and there's your 1/2 as well. So there's a few different ways you could do it, but I need to either see the L method, you dividing by 2's twice, or dividing by 4's. You have to show me one of those, and then your final answer is still 8 and 1/2. Okay, again, we're not estimating, but we can do a quick estimation if we want. So this would be maybe about 8, and this would be maybe about 8 as well. So my answer is going to be close to 0. So 8 minus 8 equals 0. I'm going to write that up there. We'll check that. So I know I'm going to have a really small answer. I do have a common denominator. Is my denominator on the left bigger than my denominator on the right? No, it's not. So I need to actually regroup this to a 7. And then because the denominator is a 7, I'm going to add 7. So I'm going to have 7 and 11 sevenths minus 7 and 5 sevenths. And now I have a common denominator. My numerator on the left is bigger than the numerator on the right. So I'm going to go 7 minus 7 is 0. Well, if we remember, I knew I was going to have an answer really close to 0. So that actually makes sense. I don't need to write 0, but then 11 minus 5, I can write 11 minus 5 all over 7. So I'm doing my numerators. And then that is going to leave me with 6 sevenths. And I know that 6 sevenths is actually really close to 1, but remember, this is just an estimate here, and we actually rounded this. This is about a half. We rounded that all the way down to 8. And then this is just over a half. We rounded it all the way up to 8. So because we did that round, it does make sense that we're a little off here. So the final answer is 6 sevenths. Again, add or subtract and simplify. We are subtracting, so is the numerator on the left? Well, I don't have a numerator on the left, so I'm going to need to regroup this. So I'm going to write this as an 8. And since I have a denominator of 8 over here, I'm going to just make a whole by writing 8 eighths. So 8 and 8 eighths is the same as 9. We're just renaming that number a different way. So now I have a common denominator, and my numerator on the left is greater than the numerator on the right. So I'm going to do 8 minus 7, which is 1. And then I'm going to write the numerator as 8 minus 3 over 8. And that's going to give me 1 with 5 over 8. And I can't simplify that anymore, so that's my final answer. And if I were to estimate that, 9 minus 7 and 3/8, well, 7 3/8 is close to 7. So 9 minus 7 gives me 2. And 1 and 5/8, that's greater than a half. I'd round that up to 2. So I'm pretty close to that answer. That makes sense. Okay, again, here I do not have a common denominator, so can I make the smaller denominator equal to the larger one? Yes, by multiplying by 2. Again, I'm not rewriting these fractions because they're right here for us and they're kind of big and easy to work with. So, but if you're doing homework, I would expect you to rewrite the original problem. So let's rewrite this. So let's go 8 and we get 4/14 plus 6 and 5/14. And now I can add my whole numbers to get 14, and then I'm going to add my numerators as 4 plus 5 all over 14, and that's going to give me 14 and 9/14. I can't simplify that any further, so that's actually going to be my final answer. Okay, so David mowed 3/10 of the yard while his brother mowed 1/4 of it. What fraction of the yard still needs to be mowed? All right, so we have a 2-step problem here. So we have to have 3/10 of it mowed and 1/4 of it mowed. Well, if the whole yard was mowed, that would be a whole yard. That's 1. So we have to add these two fractions and then subtract it from the whole yard. So first, let's go 3/10 plus 1/4. Well, I know that I don't have a common denominator, and I can't make the smaller one equal to the larger one. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up with my L method, 10 and 4. And I can factor those both by 2, and I get a 5 and a 2. And I can't simplify 5 and 2 anymore, so my L method can be found, or my LCD can be found using all 3 of these numbers. 2 times 5 is 10, and 10 times 2 gives me 20. So I'm going to rewrite both these fractions as 20 with a line over it plus 20 with a line over it. Now, I have to think, what did I do to 10 to make it 20? Well, one place I could check, I can actually check over here, and whatever is diagonally, 10 times 2. So if I didn't know, I could say, okay, it's going to be times 2. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So that's going to be 6. And then, again, the 4, I can look diagonally. 4 times 5 is 20. So I have to multiply the numerator by 5 as well. So I end up with 6 plus 5 all over 20. And that gives me 11 over 20, which that can't be simplified. So this is how much of the lawn is actually mowed, just over half of the lawn. So when I rewrite 1, I'm going to rewrite it as a fraction with a denominator of 20. So I'm going to write 20/20 minus 11/20, because 11/20 stands for the amount of lawn mowed between David and his brother, and 20/20 stands for the entire lawn. So what I'm going to get is 20 minus 11 all over 20, and from there I'm going to have 9 over 20. I can't simplify that at all, so 9/20 of the lawn. And that's my final answer for this question. That takes us to our last example. We'll be having some practice examples in class where we'll be working together as well, along with your prep homework for your quiz. If you'd like to get some extra help getting ready for the quiz, I would recommend you watching the previous videos for lessons 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3. You could also check out the online tutorials which I've posted to Moodle, and you may also want to try the online quizzes for each lesson to help you get prepared for the quiz.